So welcome to the Queer Talk. It's amazing. We're here today with Harvey Rabbit talking about our wonderful topic, the trans agenda and queer acts of subversion. My name is Xenia, and I'm so very happy that Harvey is here. He's a filmmaker, artist, trans activist, troublemaker, and there's like lover. Like, is there something on your page saying something like that, or no?
I mean, I would like to be lover, yeah. Something, probably. I lover and a fighter. No, I don't know.
Okay. So maybe you say some words about yourself before we start.
Oh, no, I didn't know I was going to have to do this, but I could have guessed. Okay, so I'm Harvey Rabbit. I am a filmmaker. I'm currently trying to finish a movie called Captain Fagatron Saves the Universe, where you can see our lovely trailer at our website, www.captainfagatron.com. I'll put that in the chat. This film was made by majority trans people, and actually, like, the funny thing is, I think if it had not been for making this movie, I never would have figured out that I was trans. Like, when I started writing the script was a response to the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida, and I was identifying as a cis woman. And that was in 2016, and then I kind of took a break for some health reasons, and then I came back to the script, and my gender was getting sort of like strange while I was writing it. I was kind of couldn't figure things out. In my brief non-binary period, I changed my pronoun to woof, or at least tried to. Thank you, Rosh, for posting the website. Or I tried to change my pronoun to woof. That did not work out too well. And then I continued to like try to live life as a cis woman person, and that just didn't work out at all, as you can see. And then we were doing. When did I come out? I had written the script, and we were starting to do crowdfunding and doing these crowdfunding videos, and I just was getting more and more uncomfortable with the pronoun she. And like finally one day in April or May of 2019, I was like, a friend of mine was like, let's try he, and it felt really a lot better. And then I started wearing a binder, which I don't do anymore because they're fucking uncomfortable. So the trans agenda is something that cis people are very, very afraid of. And I think that is because the cis people and the heteronormative cis world definitely has an agenda that is about conformity, and they are afraid that the trans agenda is the same. Like, we want everyone to be trans, and we want everyone to be queer, and I will keep my own personal views on that private for right now. However, like, what the trans agenda really is, when we talk about trans people having an agenda, our agenda is not to make it uncomfortable for people to be cis if they are cis. Our agenda is to have less trans children and trans people kill themselves because they don't think there is any other option. So like things like when speaking with children about gender and also sexuality, like making it very simple, like here are some options for you. You can be this, you can be that. Look at, like, this person is doing these amazing things, and they're also trans. And this person is doing these amazing things, and they're also cis. And these two people are like two cis men, and they're married to each other, and they have a loving relationship where they're best friends and they share a room just like Daddy and I do, and like, you know, what like our agenda is to have people have options and know that they don't have to live in this way where they have to hide themselves, you know, and that they're more than just like a joke or an afterthought, but to actually be seen as like important members of society and not just like a joke or some kind of performative thing that you can whip out at your liberal cocktail party with, I supported this thing, or I worked on this show that Laverne Cox was on, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, you said you wouldn't put your private opinions out there. I will try a little, just to, a baby step in this direction maybe, because what really is on my mind is the question is there, because like I work in like trans, like consulting, trying to help people, talking to parents, and what I often get is that they cannot separate the question of like exterior body from the question of gender. They cannot.
Yes.
And when I talk to them, just to elaborate a little, I get the feeling that they say, oh, how can we make the world a better place? And I get to the point where I say, if we really need to disconnect this, we need to give people a chance to tell what gender they actually are. And I think this is such a great challenge for people that they, instead of like facing the problem, they see us as a problem. That's what you maybe try to get at.
The thing is, cis people are like obsessed with genitals. They are obsessed. They are fucking obsessed with genitals and like and the way people have sex. They're absolutely obsessed with this. It's like it's the same reason that like it's not okay for children to know about homosexuality, and it's like, well, hopefully you're not like watching straight porn in front of your children either, you know, because that is, sorry, but disgusting. If you're doing, you know, how like kids don't care about this grown-up stuff. When we're talking about homosexuality and children, we're talking about like very simple, like these people can love each other and have a relationship just like your mom and I do, or you know, or like just like all the other straight friends that mommy and daddy have. And with trans people, like, okay, I work at Akita.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason I have no idea if my coworkers know I am trans or not. But it just, like, I show up to work in maybe not this much makeup, but almost sometimes, and I wear my earring, and I have a nice necklace I wear instead of, like, a collar, and I don't wear a crop top because, like, I need to be, like, age appropriate, and it wouldn't be appropriate for anyone to show up to Akita wearing a crop top just because, like, it's very physical. It's not a comfortable situation. It's very physical. You're picking kids up, like, don't want to do that. However, like, I have no idea if they know I'm trans or not, and like, if they do, they don't care. Like, it's a non-issue, and no child there has ever asked me about my gender, and if they did, I think the conversation would be very simple, you know, like, but they, like, the thing is, children don't care until you make them care. And if you don't enforce gender on a child, and like, you're a boy and you should play with these toys and not those toys, and you're a girl and you should do this and not that, then they find their own way, right? And if you just let children do what they do, they'll find their gender when they are supposed to. right? And not like gender comes out in children maybe around 5. They start being a little like, boys do this and girls do that, depending on their environment. But really, like, I mean, I see how the older kids kind of act, and but even then, like, it's just kind of a soft approach to gender, because no adult, at least I don't know how their home lives are. I can guess with individual children how, because of how they act, but like, no one at this kita is really forcing gender on them in any way, and they just are doing what they're doing. And this is so nice to just let them be, you know, people. Like, because we let cis men be people, and like as seen like currently in the US, we don't let women be people, cis women be people, and like, you know, and then like you get to be less and less of a person. We let white cis men be people. And like everybody else is a little bit less of a person. And like, yeah, so what we're talking about here is gender, right? So like there's this one type of gender that is definitely, this is what it means to be treated like a person. And then there's like, if you're a passable male, trans male, then you also get to be a person, kind of, which, like, this is not like a yay thing for me either. Like, it's really fucked up. But like, the goal, I think, is just to, like, everybody should be able to be a person and just be treated like a person. And this is like, I mean, I feel like feminism and trans rights are really connected in this way. Unfortunately, there's a lot of feminists that don't see it this way, but that's really too bad, because trans people are so fucking powerful. Like, we've had to deal with so much adversity, and we really know how to, like, fight. And you would think that, like, all the cis women feminists would want to, like, come together with us, you know, but meh.
Yeah, man. It's great hearing you talk about our fighting skills. Yeah, because like when you started with like saying children maybe are not so much already gendered. I think what I realize is when they turn 5, they already have this kind of primordial knowledge of what I said: body equals gender. So like the examples I get is like, because I get asked a lot actually, because I'm actually, for most people, in the gender fuck spectrum, so they ask me, and I think maybe asking is okay in a way, but then they don't really accept it, because
that's what's not okay.
That's what's not okay, and they always go like, but your voice, it's not a woman's voice, but what are you? Is it what you're wearing? Are you really a woman? I'm not sure. A woman should be like this, and a woman should be like that. So,
and that is so fucking misogynistic to say a woman should be like anything at all. Like, wow.
Yay. Yeah, okay. Maybe I have to get my spirit up to the fighting realm, because sometimes I just see the many layers of like how much there is still to be done. Like, there is, because this society really gives me the chills of saying, we can make an exception for you. Like, we talked about this before, like about this. We can be tolerant with you. It's okay. You can be whatever you like. As long as you don't provoke us, as long as you're not getting loud, you can be.
Don't take your underwear off at the party where everybody else is allowed to have their underwear off, because, you know, you don't have a, you know, meanwhile, like, I'm allowed to go to those parties and be as naked as I want, and like, wow, so these people aren't really seeing me either, you know? Like, like I am not just like kind of like I am a dude. I am a gross, smelly dude. You know, like there is not there is some feminist here, and it is carefully curated, but like there is very little like femininity here. Do we need to differentiate between feminist and femininity, or?
If you want, you can. Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, there's like femininity and masculinity, which are sort of like what society puts on you, and generally it's not so reflected, and it's just like, oh, this is a very feminine woman. Oh, this woman is failing because she is not so feminine. Or like, you know, to be a man, you have to be masculine, and if you're not masculine, something is wrong, right? But then like femme and masc, or otherwise known as like femme and butch. I kind of like this, taking this femme and butch from the lesbian scene more. Is like, to be femme is like going, oh, I have a choice. I have a choice of what kind of person I want to be, and I can include feminist and butchness in that, you know? So like, I choose for like some of my feminists and eerie and makeup, and you know, and sometimes I wear a bunch of rings and other jewelry, and occasionally like I might wear a dress, or I have to be really comfortable or doing drag in order to like do that. But and maybe it will change if I get surgery, but I don't know. And then like, what elements of masculinity or butchness are we putting on? Like, and it's more of like this carefully, it's like fat. It's kind of more about fashion in a way, at least this external femme and butchness, and being able to like play with it. But I also feel like there's a lot of psychology behind let's like I can be femme and butch at the same time, because I can wear all this and then like put some shelves up with power tools and do some DIY, you know? Or, and like say, yeah.
Yeah. I get, like, that's kind of the way I sometimes try to differentiate queerness from transness in some degree. I see they're very interconnected, but because I was identifying as a queer person for a long time, just for not really knowing, like more queer, like I'm not what I'm supposed to be queer, so I'm kind of a deviant. But when I discovered like this, because like you said, there's a lot of psychology in it for me. And I don't know if it's because I lived under the, let's put it like the trauma of not being able to be myself. For me, it was a huge psychological shift, which was like really accepting this, more, I call it like an ontological experience of being a woman, which is really weird because I'm far from being any essentialist person. But when I was realizing, like you said before, when I started using different pronouns and getting to be accepted as a woman, especially for myself, it gave me a chance to, like what they say in psychology, to actualize, to reach the present. Because before I was really kind of lost in how should I ever become an adult or do anything where I can take responsibility for my life, because I didn't feel this connection to my own life, because it was always like, oh, there's this person living my life for me in a way. And so, coming into transness maybe in this late age comes with a deep, there's a long story which has to be rewritten. So maybe that's very different for younger people. I don't know.
I mean, I came out when I was 43, so I don't know. I do know that, like, I talked to an old college friend of mine who he has 2 children, and one of them is 12, and is trans, and she is like kind of discovering herself. And my friend, he wrote me how cool it is to watch her discover herself, and like just the way her dad was talking about her to me, where I haven't, this person lives in the US, I'm in Berlin, like I haven't talked to them in like, we occasionally chat, but we haven't seen each other in like 20 years, you know, and it's just like, it's so cool that like this person is just completely accepting and celebrating his child, his daughter, and you know, and like, and I also know that if later on she decides she's non-binary or she wants to do something else with her gender, like he'll be fine with that. And this is actual support. This is actual allyship where he's gonna go to bat for her. You know, the kind of like anti-trans hate machine that's happening in the US right now with all this horrible legislation, like, I mean, they're after cis women, they're after trans people, they're after everyone. But like, this is, he's gonna fight for his daughter, and this is so different than kind of like this performative aspect of allyship where it's like, you know, you might donate some money somewhere or wear a t-shirt or go to a parade, but then when someone corrects you about their pronouns in front of other people, or every time they correct you, you get very annoyed, or you tell them they're being unprofessional, or you say that you're embarrassing them in front of like their clients or coworkers or something, where actually what you should be saying is thank you for correcting me, because sometimes I forget, you know, or sometimes I make mistakes. But like, and this is just, there's this bullshit performative kind of like, I love trans people, but like then you come out and you're not allowed to talk to your niece, which is,
I would put it in form of another question, because like, do you think like this, I would call it, it's kind of a trans revolution going on for me, and I want to say, yeah, I want to celebrate this. That's really important. That's what I'm missing the most in this so-called discourse about transness. It's a revolution, like the sexual revolution, like the trans, lesbian, gay, queer revolution starting in Stonewall, maybe. Like, and it's another wave of this, and we're like especially focusing on non-binary identities and even like more identities in the spectrum. It's a big shift, and I think, yeah, like just standing aside and saying, oh, that's interesting, that's happening, and that's where my question leads to. Do you think it's that society, that like everybody needs to rethink their relation to gender, or because that's maybe,
I mean, I would hope so. If you're given the opportunity to like, you're like, why do I feel like I am who I am? Like, don't you want to take that opportunity? Like, isn't that a gift to like know yourself more? But this is interesting that you mentioned Stonewall, because I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they had recordings of interviews that took place after Stonewall, because after Stonewall happened, like a couple months after Stonewall happened, things just basically went back to normal, and Sylvia Rivera was getting thrown in jail again, and right, and they had like so the language, this interview was from the 1970s, so the language they were using is not language we would use to talk about trans people today. But like, it took Stonewall for gay men to like get behind us, and trans women specifically, and say like, hey, we all deserve rights, and then it's like, even them, you know. And it's just kind of like, it goes so deeply, that this transphobia in our society goes so deeply, right? But we have to remember that at Stonewall happened because it was illegal to, well, it was illegal for a man to wear women's clothing in the USA. It was illegal to be gay, you know. So it's like the same, and there was generally this feeling of gay people don't exist or shouldn't exist, and we're all like terrible, like horrible, deviant perverts who don't understand consent and all this stuff. So I feel like right now this is happening again, but it's with trans people, and there's so much hatred towards us, or just like an exclusion of us in so many parts of the gay and lesbian community.
Yes.
You know, and it's very, yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's more. I don't think all of a sudden it's you know, there's this thing about trans trenders also, which is like, no, it's not a trend. It's just that people suddenly feel like they actually can be who they are. For me, I had no example of like that I could be anything else. Like, of course I knew, because I had seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and like Frankenfurter is not a trans woman, but I had this idea that like men could gender bend, and like that, and then I kind of knew that trans women existed because like Andy Warhol and Candy Darling, and right, but I had no reference at all that someone like me could exist until like much later. And then I thought that there was no way I could actually be a man because I was not a butch lesbian. Because the narrative we have for trans men, the popular narrative is that like, first you're a lesbian, then you get more and more butch lesbian, and then you figure out you're a man and you have a bunch of surgeries. And it's like, this is not my story, you know. I was never a lesbian. I really tried, but it just, like, I was never a lesbian. I was always very bisexual and very into like men. And you know, so I think having an example of who you can be, and this is why representation is so important, right? Is because when you see on a screen somewhere, and like I was going to say in a book, that matters too, but these days it's like when you see in the media, when you see on a screen that like you can be a trans woman or a trans man and a doctor or a lawyer or someone besides, and I need to preface this by saying I am an avid sex work advocate, and I am not shaming sex work in any way, shape, or form. I think it is good, honest work, but like, this is the only representation we get of trans women often in the media, is, and like that's also a lot of trans women's reality, because like because of discrimination, and hormones cost money and all these other things, right? But when we see in the media over and over again that trans woman equals sex worker, like that's all, you don't see yourself as someone who might be able to own a home someday or go to college, or, you know, like there's all these things against you. So also, if you're like, if you can in any way just not come out and still survive, why would you? Because otherwise the media and everything around you is telling you your life will be terrible, you know? So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is also part of the trans agenda, is like representation.
Yes, it is. It's, yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, that would really mean a lot if society would reach this point. Yeah, but yeah, like you said before, we're more on the other edge. We're entering strange culture wars and alliances of like people who have actually maybe not so much politically in common, but trans women especially are very good focus for right-wing politics. And so yeah, like so the matter of it's now like it's legal in Germany now, like it wasn't legal like still some years ago. So at least
it's so interesting to me because like Berlin has always been this like mecca of gender fuck. You know, before the First World War, there was so much. Was it before the First World War and after the First World War? Also, there was so much cabaret here.
Yes.
And like drag and gender bending and yeah.
Yeah, but then the Nazis came along, and
then they did.
They did, and so yeah, that's kind of I don't know. Yeah, for me, I don't know. Maybe this is just my mood of the day, but I feel like you say we need this representation, and yes, and I do get that, and we need like a way maybe to that children don't have to live through the same kind of trauma which maybe we had to go through in the same way, but still like it for me this whole like the setup of this society is sometimes really calling for really incremental change, like you say, because it's still like we're on so many levels operating with, like you said, what is masculine, what is feminine. So there's this misogyny in the transphobia, and there's the homophobia, and these things are not gone. Like we have like so.
Right, and just because you come out as trans doesn't mean all of a sudden you're not transphobic. Like it's like racism. Like it's in all of us because that is the society we live in, and all we can do is like work to deprogram the racism and the transphobia inside of ourselves. Like we're both white people. I don't really want to get into a conversation about racism because I feel like I didn't do enough research before to know how to like hold that conversation. But like I want to acknowledge that like there's this intersectionality between all this like all these internalized in theater of the oppressed, which is this theater pedagogy by this Brazilian guy Augusto Boal. But in theater of the oppressed, there's this thing called cops in the head, and it's all the oppressors that live inside your head that really are in charge of how you navigate the world. And I think racism and transphobia and homophobia are really in there for all of us, no matter how gay we are, no matter how trans we are, no matter how proud we are of who we are and accepting of ourselves. All that shit is still there, right?
Yes.
I also want to come back to this, like talking about gender and sexuality with children. But so we're talking about representation and things like that, and then like there's this kind of, it's funny because I'm going to use the word silence, but there's this kind of like unspoken belief that silence equals acceptance. Like you know, maybe Harvey is a different kind of a guy, or Xenia is a different kind of woman, but we're just not gonna we're not gonna talk about it or acknowledge it, and then like everything will be okay, and we can all just be like comfortable. And it's harder to do with transness, because transness, depending on when you started taking hormones and a lot of things about your DNA and like just, you know, family history and whatever, like some people are always going to be visibly trans, whether they want to be or not. And there are safety concerns with this, but I don't like trans is beautiful. I am I am more attracted to trans people than I am to other types of people. Probably because I think, oh, we can relate on some things, which is not always true, because people are really complicated. And I, like, yes, I'm also saying a bunch of problematic shit, but like, I'm a human being, I'm speaking honestly. So like, this is only my opinion, like my individual opinion. I do not speak for every trans person or every trans man at all. I just, like, if this gets on Twitter, you know, there's going to be Twitter. But like, this silence thing does not equal acceptance. To steal a phrase from ACT UP, who were doing anti-AIDS work in the 80s, like, silence equals death, you know? And just not talking about something might make the straight cis people feel more comfortable, but like, it also makes the queer trans people, and especially youth, want to kill themselves because they feel like there's no space for them. And like, so Sesame Street is kind of an American thing, but it's international also. So a few years ago, Bert and Ernie, the two Muppets who live in the orange and the yellow Muppet who live in the bed. One of them loves pigeons and the other one has a rubber ducky. And, great. Wow, I've lived abroad for a long time because I just explained Bert and Ernie. And everyone in the U.S. knows them.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a very German thing too. Like,
okay,
Sesamstraße. Like, okay, yeah, I think okay, they get it.
So, you know, Bert and Ernie, a few years ago, actually, like, they got to come out of the closet. They came out. They're a gay couple. Wow! Like, and I was having a conversation with my brother, from whom I am now estranged, and I'm not allowed to talk to my niece because I have an agenda. Of course, it's not a trans agenda, it's just an agenda, but it's a trans agenda. I was saying how wonderful it was that Bert and Ernie came out and what a great thing it was. And my brother said, well, I don't understand why that matters. I mean, who cares? Like, it was very dismissive. And I had to say, hey, it matters a lot, because if their relationship had been recognized, they probably would have had an engagement. They would have had a wedding. They might have had a family and children. And like, so children are watching Sesame Street and they see just these two men in this, like, sleeping in separate beds in the same room. And okay, but like, why don't they get to be a couple? Why don't they get to be a family? You know, and like that would have made a giant difference to me when I was growing up. If I had just, and many other people too, if we had just been able to see that, like, this is normal. This is normal. And it's not about sex, and it's not about like these perverted things. And it's actually, gay people can be really appropriate around children, because like, people can be appropriate around children, you know, and also straight people can be very inappropriate around children. Like, there was a parent at the Kita the other day, and I had to like check them about something, you know, and I'm the guy with the earring, so I'm also a childcare professional. So, you know, it's like, it does matter. And I think it's like the privilege at the top never sees how important these little things are, and that they're not such little things to us. But because my brother is straight and cis, like, it doesn't matter to him. So he just figures it's not important, right? The same way, like, he is not going to talk to his child, his daughter, about the fact that there are two lesbian moms, that are parents of one of her schoolmates, because he's just going to wait till she brings it up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's different, instead of because he wants to make it normal. And what he really wants to do is not, and this is kind of how I was raised also. So, you know, and like, I forgive my parents. It was a different time, right? But this, like it's not normal if it's just silent, right? Then it's
Yes.
like, we don't talk about that, you know? And like, God forbid his child grow up to be queer, you know, because I'll love her no matter who she is. That's not really enough. Like, you don't really, love doesn't really matter without actual acceptance that, like, there is a whole culture. It's not just about like who you're having sex with. I know there are many very straight men in the world who have sex with other men, and they are not gay. They are not living this culture, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to get to our definition of queerness, which we worked on before this talk. But for just to, for me, it really takes me, the equation. But it really, what you're saying really takes me back to this. Yeah, we need to address trans emancipation as a win for everybody. It's a reason to celebrate. So like anyone who's watching or listening to this now or in the future, if you have someone in your life or a child who's discovering transness, celebrate it, support it. Like you said, there's a chance.
Doesn't mean they're going to be trans, but you're really lucky if they are, because we're beautifully unicorns.
Yes. And then you have to see that this societal change too is not, it's not, trans is not causing problems. That's like all I hear about when I look in the internet and look up transnet is about problems here with sports, with bathrooms, with things. And even if it's true, there are like 900 million things which are really, really great. So if there's, so let's start like making the picture like vivid and like full.
So tired of like everything in the media being about trans pain and queer pain. Like, can we have some joy, please?
Yes. Yes, that's joy. Enjoy the possibility of coming together as humans without these like gender cut up happening to any one of us, and like maybe and even more reuniting with the world, because this man woman, that's it, is a very narrow concept which is, you cannot communicate with a lot of people if you're just in this very like it's like post-colonial scholars say, it's a very colonial mindset of like enforcing these binaries. And so maybe in this time of crisis, it's even more important to look for ways to find a common future. Yeah, maybe I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good thing that you did. Also, like, I want to say, like, if you're a straight cis person, or even not straight and a cis person, and there are aspects of transness that make you uncomfortable, like, lean into that. Lean into the trust yourself enough to feel a little awkward and lean into that uncomfortability, because it's only when you are in a more privileged position, you're used to feeling comfortable. That's like the definition of privilege is comfort. So when someone who is in a less privileged position is making you a little bit uncomfortable, it is not because they are purposefully wanting and needing you to be uncomfortable. It's because they are trying to make themselves a little bit more comfortable in the world. And you have to give up a little bit of your comfort in order for all of us to be comfortable. And also, if you give up a little bit of your comfort in order for another person to be a little bit more comfortable, you're going to learn how to be comfortable there too. And like, because when you get a little, there's this thing in education where it's like when you're in your like very safe zone in the center of the circle, like that's your ultimate safety zone. And then there's this like the first outward circle, which is like things that you know how to do, and like maybe maybe you're learning some of them, but like it's still pretty comfortable for you. And then there's something like that's outside that circle, and that's uncomfortable. But if you don't go there to that uncomfortable place, you don't ever learn anything new. Like, we have to be a little bit uncomfortable in order to learn anything at all. Theater, math, a language. Like, personal story, I got this job at this kita. Everything is in German. This is not a comfortable situation for me. You know what happened, though, is my German has gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
So, and because I'm willing to be a little uncomfortable in order to reach a goal. Now, for me, the goal is this job because I need to pay my rent, and I love kids. I love working with kids. But, like, if you're uncomfortable with aspects of transness and you lean into those, it doesn't mean you're gonna like become a trans person unless you're already trans and you don't know it. But it shouldn't threaten your gender identity. It should, like, it's an exciting thing. You can learn new stuff. Like, embrace the discomfort.
Yes. Yeah, and that kind of, I can segue this to queerness maybe, because we're reaching the last like 15, maybe 20 minutes of this talk. Yeah, because this sense of like challenging your status quo and like moving out of like the old habits, and maybe like in the title it says queer acts of subversion. And so we talked earlier before this talk, and you made up an equation for queerness, which we're gonna present now. So yeah,
I did. So it's right here, and it says, "Can we see this?"
Yeah, you have to read it. Okay.
So maybe I can read it, and maybe you could like type it in the chat, or I don't know, but not really, because there's symbols. But we were trying to figure out what is queer. Right, so in the first equation, I have like a male symbol and a female symbol together, plus queer politics. This does not equal queer, even though like a heterosexual person may enjoy and support certain aspects of queer politics. This does not make them a queer person. This makes them someone who enjoys and maybe follows queer politics. You also might have two people of the same gender. We're gonna say like two cis women or two cis men, because like for the equation we're making it simple, right? So two cis people of the same gender plus queer politics equal queer. Two people of the same cisgendered people of the same gender who are in a relationship together, or that you wanted to be in a relationship with another cis woman or another cis man. You're gay or lesbian, and you don't actually have queer politics, which is fine, but it's like you really want this heteronormative lifestyle, or I will just say normative lifestyle of like owning a home and having it's all about the nuclear family. This is also not queer. This is like this is the way I differentiate between LGBTQIA. Wait, there's two Q's. I don't remember. There's a lot of letters. Full respect, not necessarily queer. If you have two people who are the same gender, or if you're a person who is attracted to the same gender as you, and again, I'm just talking about cisness, keeping it Very simple. So if you're gay or lesbian and you are also into queer politics, that is queer, right? But you have to, like, you can't just be gay or lesbian. Bisexual people can also be queer. So, sorry, I myself am bisexual and I'm leaving us out again. We're so invisible that I forget about us. But, so like a bisexual cis man in a relationship with a bisexual cis woman who is also a believer in queer politics can be completely queer even though his relationship might look heterosexual. You know, it's complicated. Yeah. I made it even more complicated than it was, but you know.
Yeah,
well,
work in progress, yes.
But yeah, so like that's my personal definition of what queerness is.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's for everybody to think about that queerness. Like I have to bring this up like in kind of every talk and every situation, that queerness is just not just a sexual orientation, but like you say, it's a way of doing politics and living your life. Yeah.
Right. Do we want to define queer politics at all, or we already know that?
Yeah, maybe I can again put it with with my experience and maybe form a question out of it, because for me, like I said before, for me, I feel most queer when I'm very strong, when I'm very powerful, because queerness for me is like a way of like moving actively, of changing signs, subverting images, like twisting expectations. Like maybe drag is in a very clear way is very can be a very queer practice. And so
well, what's interesting though is also it cannot be a queer practice.
It actually can be. There are many differences.
There's a lot of different types of drag.
Yes, and it was very interesting being doing drag and sitting backstage with all the gay cis male guys, and they were telling me, so you're not gay, so what you're doing here? And I'm like, I'm a gay, but I'm not a man. Okay, that's okay. We would just bro. I don't know. It was an interesting space.
Yeah.
But still, that was kind of, even when I put it like this, it was kind of a queering experience, because they were expecting something, and I was like, oh, you think I'm this? No, I'm not. So, and when I feel powerful, I love this. I'm not offended if people just see, oh, I don't know what you are. You look like a magic entity from outer space, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Why would you be offended? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, but when I need a little sense of normalcy, I need being accepted as a woman, because that's what people associate with queerness. They associate, you don't have to have any kind of base. You don't need no identity. You just float in the in-betweenness of everything. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that part-time, but we all need a space to call, and this is, so queer politics is for me challenging the ways people see and react. And so, I think it's very important for trans people too, I think, to embrace it, and because if we want to be in this struggle together, we need a lot of people like mixing it up. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it also is about family structure, whereas like this, there's this very normative, like nuclear family, where it's a husband, a wife, and like 2 kids, 2 or 3 children, and that's their like unit, that's their main unit, that's important, that's the most important thing in the world. We see this in media all the time. What's important? The family. like your blood relations, right, are more important than anything else in the entire world. Your blood relations and who they decide to make these like legal bonds of marriage with, legal bonds of marriage, something that all heterosexual people are allowed to do. And some, you know, and depending on where you live, if you're gay or lesbian or in a gay or lesbian relationship, you may not be allowed to do that. So like there's this like so any relationship that's outside of this kind of heteronormative or having this heteronormative goal of a relationship, I think that's also like the queer families. Some families have 3 parents, and not all of them, or maybe none of them, are blood related to the child, or maybe only one of them is blood related to the child. But everybody is raising the child equally. Everyone is a parent, right? So like I have a friend who is in one of these relationship structures. Also, people who decide to co-parent. They have a very solid friendship. They are not in a romantic relationship, and they both want to raise a child, and they have similar ideas about how they want to raise a child, and they will decide to raise a child together. Like this is also like a queering of the family structure. And then, you know, of course, like heteronormative or homonormative family structure, people hear about this and they get all upset, like how it's not stable or child abuse, or, and it's like, okay, but like how many people do you know that have children and are divorced? How many people do you know who like, how many people do we know who were raised by 2 heterosexual people in the same home that had like terrible home life, you know? But we're so attached to like this one way is the right way, and like it does not work for everyone.
Yes.
You know, and there are other ways possible. Also, like raising a child with only 2 people, both who are full-time raising this child and tired, that just seems like so much. Like, what about like having a village help to raise your child, you know? And like not having to be like, now you're gonna go stay with this person you hardly know, you know? But having like more than 2 actual parents to like love and nurture this child.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe that reminds me, like, in contrast to the United States of America, it's kind of going well in Germany. Yes. Because we have what you were just talking about is it should be happening that the Transsexualism, the TSG in Germany, is supposed to be ending in fall. They I heard
that I won't have to be diagnosed with transsexualism anymore.
Yes.
In order to get the health insurance to pay for my stuff, because right now that is my diagnosis.
Yes.
Transsexualism, it's a pretty fucking sexy disorder, I must say.
Yeah, and also what you talked about, what is going to happen or is supposed to happen is this Verantwortungsgemeinschaft. So like more people having the possibility of being in a legal kind of relation and doing stuff together without romantic or cis hetero pressure. But I want to make a question out of it again, because from my experience, there will be people saying, oh, now we reached that, so it's done. So yeah, we're fine. Now we can do what we want. So what do you tell these people?
Did Barack Obama being president end racism in the USA? I don't think so. The work is never done. The work is never done. But like if the work were done, then like our brains would go all kind of mushy and flat. Like this is part of life is to like challenge reality and change reality and shape reality, and like Yeah, so I want us to have more fun challenging reality.
Yes.
No, I don't want everything to be so painful all the time. And so just there's too much, like, trauma is real, and queer trauma is real, and trans trauma is real. And like when you have a whole community of people and everybody has trauma, and a lot of the trauma is different, but a lot of the trauma is the same, right? And when you have this much trauma in a community, what this community needs, aside from being able to like share their trauma, is also like feel some joy. You know, joy is important.
I think it's a very good conclusion for our talk. I think,
More trans joy. More trans joy.
For trans joy. Woo! Get ready for the joy of being. Yeah, I'm so thankful talking to you. It was, inspiring and
a pleasure as always.
Yes.
Yes.